sometimes it sounds like just a word when we talk about being resilient.
Dollars before I get into why it took me so long and to make a video, why this and that. I told y'all going into this game that the Fever was going to win. I was one of the people that did not expect them to lose this one. Go back and look. I told y'all they was going to win. I didn't think they was going to be down by 20 and come back and win. Kelsey Mitchell immediately erupted. But guys, it took me a while to make this video because I'm trying to get my thoughts together and gather my emotions because my second favorite player on the team is done, and that is Sophie Cunningham.
The WNBA drama.
Look, this whole drama just went completely reality TV. We just saw new footage, and Stephanie White, she's out here crying like a little kid who lost their ice cream. And it's all because Sophie Cunningham in this lawsuit basically ganged up on her peace of mind. Seriously, you heard that right. It's tears, pure chaos, and lawyers, all wrapped up in one messy package. If you thought WNBA was just about making shots, this update shows it's also about emotional breakdowns. Man, what a mess.
It took a Hercules-like effort from Kelsey Mitchell in the second half of the game to bail out Stephanie White. My God, it took overtime for the Indiana Fever to beat the worst team in the league, they're now 6-27. We're whipping the Indiana Fever's asses for 3 quarters.
But here's the thing, it's never just about the game, is it? This whole situation just completely spiraled into what looks like a back alley brawl, but they're calling it professional basketball. Sophie Cunningham wasn't just playing defense or trying to drive to the basket. She suddenly became the target of what looked exactly like a WWE finishing move. Not something you'd expect in a league that's supposed to be about sportsmanship. Forget the pick and roll, this was more like a trip and collapse. 1 second she's in the thick of it.
Dirty, dirty Bria, of course. It had to be a dirty, dirty Bria. I would really hate to see ya in a dark alley. Dirty Bria Hartley back at it again with her shenanigans. And this time around, she had her eyes set on one Sophie, the trophy Cunningham. Sophie, get well soon. Hopefully the MRI later today shows nothing too serious. Would love to see you back on the court.
And get this, everyone's supposed to act like this is just part of the game. No, absolutely not. That wasn't a rebound attempt at all. That was a full-on flying tackle out of nowhere. These so-called professionals looked more like random extras in some low-budget action movie bar fight that got left on the cutting room floor. Seriously, if this is what counts as basketball, then the WNBA should probably just call it quits and rebrand as a traveling stunt show, because nothing about that wild mess even remotely looked like real competition.
And I want to talk about what Coach Stephanie White had to say after the game. During an interview, she said these players have something inside of them that you just can't teach. They bring it out in each other, and it allows us to get through these incredibly tough times. It gives us a chance. I'm so incredibly proud of them for continuing to believe. And that is something where I feel like the media or other players have said that the Fever have locker room issues, and we even heard that last season. It seems like this core group, since DeWanna Bonner has departed and she is no longer with the team, it seems like this group really has come together, and whether they are winning or losing, they do have a sense of togetherness.
Sophie was targeted. Plain and simple, that's what happened. This wasn't some accident. That whole oops, I lost my balance act isn't fooling anyone anymore, especially not us. Every single viewer with 2 eyes and a replay button saw exactly what went down. A totally reckless lunge designed to leave her crumpled on the court. If intent could actually scream, that entire collision would have been shouting its head off. And what's even worse is the complete lack of shame in trying to just brush it off as just another tough play. Tough play. Come on. That was basically an assault, but with sneakers.
Sophie Cunningham, oh man, I got to tell you, this victory, it came with a big price. Bree Hartley, let me just start there because we've got Sophie Cunningham's sister and mother weighing in on the league, and Bria Hartley right here. This is Hartley right here coming in.
Slide over right there.
and Hartley just kind of falls
and
and
she
makes collision with that
crushes
lower
in
leg. You see her immediately grab
on the
it.
knee of Sophie right here.
She went down hard. It was,
And that was it.
that's like she tried to
Sophie
slide
was
over right
upset.
there, and Hartley just kind of falls and
And
makes collision
right
with
there,
that lower
once
leg.
again,
You see her
into the knee. They had to pull out towels to sort of cover the situation up. Bria Hartley getting absolutely destroyed by every.
Listen, just imagine training your whole life, getting into peak condition, only to end up being used as a crash pad by a frustrated opponent. Someone who thinks the best defense is literally throwing their body onto your knee. Sophie didn't sign up to play rugby, right? She didn't audition for the role of a human floor mat, but here she is, stuck nursing an injury, while the person who caused it is just walking around like it's business as usual. If that's not pure madness, then I honestly don't know what is. And let's be real about consequences here. In any sane league, if you throw yourself on someone's leg and potentially risk their whole career, you don't just get a pat on the back. Hartley should be writing checks for every single one of Sophie's medical bills, and then some with interest. Plus, there's the huge question of accountability within the league itself. A suspension isn't just an option, it's absolutely mandatory, and not some weak little slap on the wrist where you sit out one game and show up next week with new braids. No, it needs to be a real you're gone as long as Sophie is gone kind of punishment. An eye for an eye, leg for a leg, literally. If Sophie is
Indiana Fever with a hell of a comeback versus the Connecticut Sun. We're going to get to the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's start with the ugly. Prayers up for Sophie Cunningham. One half of the Blonde Bombers. Sophie, the trophy, is done for the season with a horrific lower leg injury. I don't know if it's her knee. I don't know if it's an Achilles. It looked bad. She's going to be done for the year. I don't know how much longer the Indiana Fever can continue to survive with these injuries. I just have to be honest. I got to be real. We lost Sydney Colston to a torn ACL. Ari McDonald broken bone in her foot. Caitlin Clark has played like 12 games all year or something like that. Dewana Bonner scammed us. I mean, it's been a complete shit show, to say the least. It's been a shit show.
So the WNBA has a really simple choice here. It's not complicated at all. They either need to protect their players or just admit that they've officially become a league where reckless tackles are like part of the highlight package. But let's be honest about this. When the game on the court starts looking more like organized mayhem instead of actual basketball, then calls to just disband the whole thing don't sound that extreme anymore. Why even keep up the charade? If games are going to generate more injury reports than box scores, then what's the point of even keeping the lights on? Fans show up to watch basketball, not to see Sophie Cunningham get flattened like she's in some demolition derby. And you know what the craziest part of all of this is? The way Hartley landed on Sophie's leg, you'd seriously think she was going for bonus points in gymnastics. If there was a judge on the sideline, she might have even scored a 9.5 for form. But then the penalty for blatant assault would have dropped it right down to 0. Sophie, though, she doesn't just have to
where Sophie Cunningham went out in the first half. And that was such a huge blow for the Indiana Fever because Sophie Cunningham has been somebody, she has been the glue of this team since Caitlin has been out. She is playing so incredibly well during the second half of this season. She plays hard every single night. She's super tough. She doesn't make excuses. Like, she is somebody who has really held this team together, and seeing her go down in the first half, like, I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what it was at first when I saw her went down. So
And that's the real insult on top of injury here. It's not enough that she has to limp off the floor. Now she has to listen to a parade of excuses about how these things just happen. But listen, these things don't just happen. Intentional recklessness happen. And until the league actually grows a backbone and admits that, this whole cycle is just gonna keep going. Meanwhile, fans are just shaking their heads, wondering how something so obviously dirty can just be completely overlooked. If this same nonsense went down in the NBA, you'd see suspension headlines plastered everywhere by morning, right? But in the WNBA, crickets. Maybe a super weak statement, or a fine that barely pays for dinner at some average steakhouse. It's honestly laughable. No wonder people are completely fed up. If the league wants to keep even a shred of credibility, this is the hill they should be dying on. But instead, it looks like they're totally fine letting it all slide. The irony here is just staggering. Sophie should be making headlines for her amazing gameplay, for her shooting, for her hustle. Instead, she's the headline because someone decided to use her as a crash landing, and all this time the guilty player just walks away with barely a scratch on their reputation. It's almost comical how backwards everything has become. The victim's spotlight is pain, the instigator's spotlight is just excuses, and the league's spotlight, it's dimmer than it's ever been.
Save this team today. And I told y'all, go back to the video I posted last night. I told y'all Bria Hartley is a dirty player. She's no different than Dejanay Carrington. It just doesn't get as much publicity because the Connecticut Sun stink. Point blank, period. She's reckless. She injured Sophie Cunningham. It is a travesty. Stephanie White, you better go and you need to be buying Kelsey Mitchell food all week. You need to send her a personal masseuse because she saved your job tonight. Yeah.
The longer this whole thing drags on, the louder the calls get to just scrap the entire operation. Because seriously, why keep pretending this is a professional league if there's no professionalism anywhere? At this point, calling for the WNBA to just disband isn't even just a hot take anymore. It's starting to sound like the most logical solution available. If the league can't even enforce basic safety for its players, then the entire foundation just crumbles. What you're left with is basically chaos trying to disguise itself as a sport, and that chaos isn't entertaining at all. It's exhausting for everyone. Fans aren't tuning in to see carnage. They want buzzer beaters, not body slams. They want exciting highlight reels, not depressing medical charts. If Hartley can just throw herself onto someone's leg and face nothing more than a light scolding, then honestly, what's going to stop the next player from escalating things? What's coming next? A steel chair hidden under the scorer's table? At this rate, nothing would surprise me. This isn't even a league right now. It's a huge liability, and until that fundamentally changes, don't be shocked when more and more voices start getting louder about shutting the whole operation down. The second this whole spectacle becomes more about lawsuits and mounting medical bills than
is driving in. Sophie Cunningham or Kelsey Mitchell comes down. Sophie Cunningham overhelps, and Bria Hartley just kind of plows through her leg by the looks of things. So I need to see where she plows through. She kind of plows through the knee, and Sophie's holding like her patella. She's holding her patella. It does look like it's a patella. It's a patella injury. Normally people will hold higher in their knee if it's a knee ligament injury.
And unfortunately for Sophie, she ended up being the main act in a circus she never even signed up for. And as if Sophie getting absolutely bulldozed wasn't outrageous enough, the referees just stood there. They looked like confused mall cops watching a fight break out in the food court. Whistles in hand, stripes on their backs, but somehow totally useless. They didn't blow the whistle. They didn't issue a technical foul. They didn't even flinch. Seriously, you'd think they were just hired as extras to stand around for ambiance, because when it came time to actually enforce any rules, they completely went missing in action, like the Wi-Fi at a really cheap motel. The refs didn't do a single thing. If this is what officiating looks like, then they might as well just replace these clowns with cardboard cutouts holding whistles. At least cardboard wouldn't insult us by pretending to watch the game. The commissioner completely owns this disaster, by the way. When the people in charge set a tone that says accountability is just optional, well, you get refs who treat blatant assaults like they're just background noise. When the commissioner shrugs, the refs shrug, and so she just gets carried off like a casualty in a sport that's supposed to be about athleticism, not about sheer survival.
So we were talking about a couple things when it came to Stephanie White, right? And one of the things were, does she really care about winning? Now, she looks very effusive, right, on the sideline, giving a lot of energy, looking like she cares, getting pissed off. It was times where Caitlin Clark even had to hold her back from yelling at the refs, right? So I would think she wants to win. I don't think she's trying to throw anything. Now, I can admit, when it comes to the end of the game, her rotations, her deciding who to play and who not to play, it does make her look a little bit enigmatic.
You can honestly put all of this mess squarely on the commissioner's shoulders. This entire debacle is just a trickle-down embarrassment from the very top. If the leadership actually cared about protecting its players, none of this would have even happened, because the refs would know without a shadow of a doubt that ignoring a reckless takedown like that is career suicide for them. Instead, the message is crystal clear: do nothing. Say nothing, and just collect your paycheck. In literally any other league, one player collapsing on another's leg would immediately lead to whistles, a stoppage of play, ejections, and probably a press conference about player safety. But in the WNBA, this league has been begging fans to take them serious. But how in the world can anyone take a league seriously when the referees treat dangerous collisions like they're just watching paint dry? Fans aren't paying money to see officials turn their backs on absolute chaos. They're not tuning in to watch a commissioner just spin excuses about
Stephanie White's best friend, Carolyn Peck, been? And where has the Indiana Fever are a more dangerous team without Caitlin Clark conversation gone? How come once the Indiana Fever suddenly stop that 5-game win streak, lose 3 of their last 4, how come Carolyn Peck has suddenly stopped showing up on TV? How come that narrative of the Indiana Fever are more dangerous without Caitlin Clark, why has that suddenly stopped?
They tune in for basketball, but what they got instead was Sophie Cunningham being used as a human landing strip with absolutely zero consequences for anyone involved. That's not basketball, folks. That's plain negligence. Broadcast right there on national television. The commissioner could have fixed this whole thing so easily. One strong statement, one bold punishment, one clear sign that the league actually values its players' health and safety. But no, instead, what do we get? Just silence and empty word, and once that message is out there, good luck trying to convince any fans otherwise. If that's what they call natural, then maybe I've completely misunderstood the entire concept of sport. Natural is defense and offense battling it out. Natural is sweat and pure hustle. Natural is players hitting amazing shots, not hitting each other's joints. What happened wasn't natural at all. It was negligence, dressed up in a referee's jersey with a commissioner's silence acting as its shield. And here's where it just gets truly ridiculous. If Sophie's injury...
To see her go down, to see, like, it's just emotional, guys. Just, I'm hella mad. Hartley need to be suspended on a major level completely. Probably she's, at this point, she's more dirtier than Dejanay Carrington. Just the countless of dirty plays she has been doing over the last couple weeks has just been remarkable, and it's shocking that she's not suspended. Sophie Cunningham was getting attacked from the opening part of this game. Let me pull up something here real quick, guys, but I am hella mad, bro. Sophie did not deserve any of that happened to her today, and it is very, very unfortunate.
Man, that's a franchise cornerstone. She's sitting out all because some referee was too scared to blow a whistle and a commissioner was too lazy to actually enforce any standards. Just imagine being that incompetent and still cashing a commissioner's paycheck. Seriously, if incompetence was an actual sport, the WNBA's leadership would be undefeated champions. This whole situation honestly feels like a masterclass in failure. Here's how it went down. Step 1, a player recklessly injures a star. Step 2, the referees pretend they've suddenly gone blind and deaf. And step 3, the commissioner does her absolute best mannequin impression, just saying nothing while the entire league starts crumbling around her. The disease is right there at the top, just rotting everything below it. You can't possibly expect referees to enforce rules when the leadership itself isn't enforcing any accountability. They say the fish rots from the head, right? Well, the commissioner's head is practically a landfill at this point. And if fans are furious, it's not just about this one injury, it's about years of this kind of nonsense, just piling up with zero resolution.
Understand what she's doing. I've been saying it for the past couple games where I'm like, man, I'm just not understanding why you're not playing this player, that player. What's up with the rotation? I find myself doing this a whole lot. So at some point, I have to say, yeah, she just has to get out of her own way when it comes to rotations, who you're playing, who we're getting the ball to, when the hot hands are going. These things are kind of confusing. Now, my biggest example would be Chloe Bibby. Now, I've been talking about Chloe Bibby for a good amount of games now, and the thing is, the Dallas game, yes, they lost, but she shot 100% from the three.
And now, thanks to a complete lack of action, the commissioner has somehow managed to turn Sophie Cunningham's injury into a full-blown referendum on whether the WNBA even deserves to exist anymore. That's how terribly this whole thing was handled, because at the end of the day, basketball is supposed to be about fairness, right? It's about rules, it's about competition that stays within the lines, but what we just witnessed, that was just pure chaos, practically blessed from the very top. The refs didn't enforce the rule, the commissioner didn't enforce the refs, and the result, Sophie is left broken, while the league just pretends it's all just part of the sport. That isn't basketball, folks. That's a betrayal of the game itself. Fans aren't stupid, and when that happens, the WNBA won't even need to be disbanded. It'll just simply collapse under the